it's definitely impressive. Mike, if you had to, I guess, do a comp, who would you say as far as like a big name that people would know that you sort of emulate your style off of? Or if you're like, hey, I really like his style, I try to mix in some of his stuff, or her too.
Yeah, just watching all these fighters, I know it's maybe a little bit cliche to say, but Conor McGregor just has a good style. I like the way that he carries himself. In the beginning, when he was just, on the climb, I really admired that, and just the way that he threw his kicks and things like that. So I wanted to take that into consideration and start working on things like that. And being with my Muay Thai coach, those kicks have just been super deadly now. And then also Nick Diaz, from Stockton, California. You can't be from Stockton and not like those fighters and just look up to them all the time. I remember growing up just watching Nick Diaz fights, and then now with Nate Diaz and just counting on him to, always win and shoot for that title. So I just really like their dog style of boxing and things like that. So just getting in there and just being a dog in there, and you're gonna get hit, but you got to hit back. So that's the thing.
I guess it's appropriate that you mentioned Nick Diaz. Obviously, he's returning to the cage for the first time in 5 years. And actually, Dre, I know you're a big fan of the Diaz brothers as well. So how excited are you to see him on the UFC 266 card against Robbie Lawler? First time those two are fighting in 17 years.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see it. I'm a little bit worried about Nick Diaz though, personally. It's just hard to come back from after that long of a layoff. Like your body is just not as sharp, and especially a dude like Lawler, right? Is he's not on the top of his game, but he's been doing it a little bit more recently. He's been in there fighting top level competition, and so I'm excited. It's always fun to watch the Diaz brothers, and I will say, like, they're not necessarily my favorite fighters, but I love the dog mentality. Like their technique is really good when it comes to jujitsu. Their striking, I appreciate their striking, but you just gotta love like dudes that are willing to hop in and scrap. And so whether you like them, you don't like them, you're gonna watch their fights just to see what they bring to the table. But Mike, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a good fight. Robbie Lawler, coming off that legendary fight that he had, just he's been in wars, and so has Nick Diaz. So I think both of them know what to expect coming into this fight. I think we're in for a good 5 rounds because Nick Diaz is not going to stop. He's not going to tap, and he's not going to get stopped, TKO'd or anything like that. So I think going into this fight, we should expect a war from both of these guys. It's going to be one to remember. I think we should watch this fight coming up.
One thing I do appreciate about the UFC is they do a great job with their YouTube channel. And looking back at the fight, I think what really surprised Robbie Lawler was coming in was Nick Diaz went in there striking. He went out there, cracked him a couple times, and really put him on his heels. There is obviously a size advantage too. Nick Diaz is definitely a taller fighter. Obviously, coming from this perspective too, Mike, all about this. You just talked about having a 2-year layoff essentially between 2019 and 2021. What does that mean for a fighter to have that much of a hiatus in between fights?
I mean, just not being in the cage isn't really going to affect you as long as you're getting those trainings in and you're sparring and, you're working with top level guys. And Nick Diaz is always working with top level guys. And I'm assuming Robbie Lawler does too. So if you just keep training and, it's the age that's going to get you, the older you get and the more dogfights you get, that's what's going to get you. So I'm more concerned about the age of these two fighters, but I think that if Nick Diaz is stuck to training all the time and things like that, he should be good.
Do you think we will see a finish at 266?
No, this is going to be a 5-round dogfight. That's what I'm thinking. Both of these fighters don't give up. Like I said, Robbie Lawler's been in legendary fights. People talk about the Rory McDonald fight, but what about the Carlos Condit fight too? Like that fight was a war. And so Robbie Lawler's been in that. Nick Diaz has his fair share of dogfights. So I think both of these fighters aren't going to quit.